That's Enough Out of You podcast is sponsored by Todd John's Law. Unfortunately, bad things happen to good people, whether it's the result of an auto accident caused by the carelessness of another driver or being charged with a crime. Dealing with the aftermath of a personal injury accident or being involved with the criminal justice system can be extremely difficult. That's why, whatever you're facing, you should never go it alone. You need an experienced attorney who will stand by you every step of the way. Todd is experienced, licensed, trusted, respected, and guaranteed. No one will work harder or more diligently on your behalf, and he will personally handle your case from beginning to end. Located on Drinker Street in Dunmore, Pennsylvania, Todd has been representing the legal rights of Scranton and Wilkes-Barre personal injury victims and those accused of a crime for over 20 years. At Todd John's Law, the utmost priority is ensuring that your rights are always protected and that your case is resolved as quickly and fairly as possible so that you can move on with your life. Call Todd John's Law at 570-876-6903. With Todd John's Law, you will receive equal justice under the law. All right, guys, cold open question. Who is the most famous person you've ever met? So you must have either spoken to this person or like shook their hand, or, you know, not just see them in a restaurant or something. Like, who's the most famous person you ever actually had an interaction with?
You want to go first?
You go ahead.
I've got many, because I mean, I've been to a lot of Comic-Cons and things like that, but
Yeah.
I'm going to go with Shatner. I did get my photo taken with him. I did get to talk to him briefly while I was getting my photo with him. So
Wow.
go with William Shatner.
When was that?
Oh man, that had to be 4 or 5 years ago now.
Okay, so it was fairly recently. It was.
Yeah. Now, just this past Saturday, or not this past Saturday, the Saturday before, got our photo with Mark Shepard. I don't know if you know who Mark Shepard was in. He's been in Supernatural. He was in X-Files. He was in Doom Patrol. He was in a whole bunch of stuff.
Okay, I think I know who he is. Yeah.
Got to meet him over this past couple weekends ago. So
Yeah. Cool. What about you, Brian?
Sadly, there's really no one terribly famous that I've ever met. The two that come to mind was I did get a chance a few years ago to meet Darryl Strawberry, who was my idol growing up. I got to shake his hand and get his autograph. And oddly enough, being Hall of Fame weekend for the NFL, when I was a kid, I met Joe Klecko at a diner on Long Island.
Okay, yeah.
He waved me over. It was him and Kyle Clifton and two other players. They kind of saw me like looking over at them, and they kind of waved me over. And so, I got to meet all four of those guys. So that's probably my biggest brush with celebrity.
Yeah. Well, that's cool. I've had a few. I took some notes here on mine. So one of them, I don't know if you guys remember. Do you guys remember back when? This was when Mike Tyson was in his heyday, and he got into like a street fight with another boxer, this guy, Mitch Green. He called himself Mitch Blood Green. Mm-hmm. And you remember he came out in a press conference, and his eye was like out to here. He had an enormous black eye from Tyson punching him. So I met him. He actually, at one point, my mother was dating this guy who was a boxing manager, and he managed this guy, Mitch Green, and he brought him to our house, and we had lunch with him, and he was an interesting fellow for sure. So that was one. I met Artie Lang. You guys know who Artie Lang is, right? The comedian who was on the Howard Stern show. Yep. So my dad and I went up to Turning Stone Casino to see him perform. And we saw him. I think it was like a Friday night. We saw him perform, and then Saturday morning we got up to have breakfast and do a little gambling in the casino. So we got dressed, went to the elevator. Elevator doors open, and there's Artie Lang standing in the elevator. And so we got in, and I was standing right next to him, and my dad was standing behind us, and I see my dad like craning his neck over. And he mouths to me, he goes, "Is that?" Because Artie had, he had the headphones on and everything, and clearly he just kind of wanted to be left alone. But we ended up talking to him for a little bit. He was a nice guy.
Was he still up from the night before, or?
I couldn't tell. It seemed like he was rested. It seemed like, I think he was. That wasn't. I think he was like in his a little bit calmer phase at that point.
Okay.
I mean, who knows? Who knows with him? He could have been, but yeah, he he was there and had some guys with him. I met James. I stood next to James Taylor. So my cousin was a professional guitar player, and played in James Taylor's band for many, many years. And when James Taylor came to the Scranton area to perform, my cousin hooked us up with tickets and backstage passes. And so during the intermission, we went backstage, and we were talking to my cousin, and James Taylor was standing right next to me. And I didn't have enough courage to turn around and shake his hand or anything, but that was really cool. I mean, he's a legend. And then the last one I have is, I have two more. One, I didn't know he was a celebrity when I met him. So I went to, you guys remember Tinks, right? In Scranton?
Of course.
So I went to
Tinks. Many hours there.
Went to Tinks one night with some friends, and I saw this guy that I worked with. He was standing at the bar with a group of guys. And I just walked over and said hi to him, and he introduced me to his friend Rob. I said, shook Rob's hand. Hey, Rob, how's it going? That was it. And I had my night. And a couple weeks later, we were having lunch at work, and he was talking about Vanilla Ice. And, he was talking, we were all talking about, Vanilla Ice and what this and that. And my friend turns to me, he goes, "You met him." I met who? He goes, you met Vanilla Ice. I said, "What do you mean Vanilla Ice?" He goes, "My friend Rob." I said, "That was Vanilla Ice?"
Funny.
He said, I'm on the motocross team with him, and we were just hanging out that night. And I was,
that's hilarious.
That was interesting. And then the last one I have, this is really funny. This was like in the early 90s. I went to California. My grandmother lived in Santa Monica. And my dad and I flew out to Santa Monica, and she took me to the Universal Studios, where they film all the movies and TV shows and everything. You can do like a lot tour. So we did the lot tour. We got on the bus, and we're going around on the bus, and you can, they show you all the famous houses where, they film. We saw like the Psycho house was there, and the Leave It to Beaver house. And as we're going around, the tour guide said, she was telling us funny stories about people that were just kind of, actors and famous people that were just walking around the studio, walking around and interactions with them. She told us a story about Mark Hamill, who apparently flagged the bus down, jumped up on the bus, took the microphone, and did the tour. Gave the tour for the rest of and you know how funny he is. And my grandmother said, she turned to me, she goes, "Who's Mark Hamill?" I said, "Grandma, it's Luke Skywalker."
Yeah.
She said, "Oh, Luke Skywalker." I said, "Yeah." And I was like, I was, crazy. I couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe that. And it was a great story. So we get off the bus, and we go into the actual studio where they're filming, and they were filming this show, and I can't remember the name of it, but it was an early 90s. It was like a cop show, cop drama. and Mark Harmon was in the show, and now I can't remember. Was it Marley Matlin? The two, anyway, they were filming a scene and they got done filming it. And Mark Harmon comes out and the tour guide introduces him and he's talking with us. And my grandmother goes, Skywalker. And I said, no, Graham, that's a different Mark.
Oh my God.
But he was really nice. This was, pre NCIS. And he was really nice. And I shook his hand and I told him that I love the movie Summer School. And he said something like he had just talked to Kirstie Alley and they had so much fun making that movie. And he was really, really nice, really personable. So anyway.
Yeah, there's one. So it was probably about 6 years ago. I was at Hollywood Studios and I'm in the smoking area, before they changed it and you had to go outside. So that was inside. So I'm in there smoking and I look over and there's this guy just sitting there. And I'm like, man, he looks so damn familiar. I'm like, why can't I pick? Then finally it dawned on me. I'm like, crap, I think that's oh my God, I just lost his name. Holy crap. Oh my God.
Well,
Jack Sparrow. Help me, someone.
You're gonna give us a clue.
Captain Jack.
Who?
Captain Jack Sparrow.
Oh, Johnny Depp.
Johnny Depp. So I swear, it's got to be Johnny. So I'm staring, he's staring at me. We're just kind of going back and forth. Then finally, he gets up and he starts walking. So then I'm walking that way too. And then he walks back or whatever. And then he's just looking at me and I'm like, is he waiting for me to say something? So I'm just looking him up now. So then I'm Googling images of him and same tattoos on the hand. I was like, damn it. I just missed the opportunity of talking to Johnny Depp. He just started walking off somewhere else. I couldn't see him, but I'm like,
wow.
Yeah.
That's crazy. So Sean, in the spirit of the Brian Lennon show, we were having some technical difficulties and Sean was having trouble getting logged in. Sean's finally logged in. How's it going, Sean?
Good. I think the CIA sabotaged me, Billy.
Oh,
I think they sabotaged my computer. But I'm in now, buddy.
So Sean, our cold open question, which I took from Brian and Gary's show, and I already know the answer to this from you, but the question was, who's the most famous person you've ever met?
Well, just recently, it'd be President Clinton.
Yeah.
Wow.
I mean, I just met him 2 months ago.
Yeah, I don't even think it was that long ago. Yeah.
Yeah. No, that was definitely the most famous.
Yeah. All right.
Go ahead, Billy.
What's that, Sean?
No, I was just going to say that was just like a spare of the moment thing. It wasn't planned. It just happened. And it was just, pretty awesome to meet a president, even, no matter what your politics are.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. Crazy. All right. Well, welcome to That's Enough Out of You. We have with us a couple of very special guests today from the Brian Lennon Show. Is it the Brian Lennon Show or the Brian Lennon Podcast?
The Brian Lennon Show.
Brian Lennon Show. So we have we have Brian Lennon and Gary McDaniel. So these guys had us on their show. I don't know, it was probably towards the beginning of the year, right? It was much earlier in the year.
Yeah, I think February, maybe March.
Yeah. So we wanted to return the favor and have these guys back on. So yeah,
happy to be here, and we feel at home with the technical difficulties. And if anyone listens to our show, they are familiar with that. Yeah,
and I am a listener, and I am definitely familiar with the technical difficulties. I think it's funny when it happens. We've been pretty fortunate. We haven't really had that many, although we did have one guest. Well, we've had one guest who gives us fits because his Wi-Fi connection is awful, and editing that show is a nightmare. But we had one guest where I think Sean at some point got cut off, and then he had to log back in, and then at another point in the show, oh, who's that?
That's my little guy, Bernie.
Oh, hey, Bernie. So at another point in the show, my mother, who was downstairs at the time visiting with us, decided to pull the plug of power strip where my Wi-Fi was connected. So So it took me a little while to get logged back into the show. But I think that's really been our only incident of technical difficulties up until today.
Well, I went around the house today. I'm like, no streaming while I'm on the podcast this afternoon. Go outside and play.
I know lately it's been me. Oh,
Yeah.
my stuff. So.
Yeah, it is not easy to get all this technology to work today, but we somehow find a way. So I got a bunch of questions for you guys, and then we have a really fun topic. Sean and I have been doing a lot of serious topics lately, really serious topics. So I wanted to make this episode really kind of light and fun.
I feel we might be underwhelming your audience because we're not professors or published authors or academics here. So
listen, we have everybody, regardless of your level of education. We're glad that you're on with us. We like to have different different people on with different viewpoints and different topics and all kinds of stuff. So yeah,
we'll try our best.
But yeah, we have a really cool topic that we'll get to a little bit later. But first, I wanted to ask you guys some questions. So I know you guys. Well, all right. Tell us how you met.
Good.
I went to Bishop O'Hara my senior year of high school. I had moved up from Florida, and Gary and I were, I think, in the same homeroom. But
yep. Mm-hmm.
I didn't really get to know Gary till I think it was the homecoming dance.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
And
Okay.
Gary was dancing on the floor, kind of like thriving and on the floor. I'm like, this guy's interesting. I think I could be his friend. And so then over the course of the senior year, we kind of grew closer and closer. So that's kind of where we met and how we met.
So this was senior year. That's interesting because one of my dear friends who we're best friends to this day. We met in our senior year. So yeah, that's interesting. Yeah. Oh, cool.
Okay.
And then you guys are obviously both good friends with my wife, Mary Alice.
Yes.
So tell me how you met her. I know it was Bishop O'Hara, but what were the circumstances around your meeting Mary Alice?
Yeah, that would have been I went to school with her since freshman year, so I was with her, and of course she was also in our homeroom.
Yeah,
all our last names were all very close.
L's and M's,
right? Yeah,
so we were all in the same homeroom, and actually, you know what? She was friends with Bob Heim.
Okay.
And then that's how we kind of got into knowing Mary Alice and all that, was because Bob was friends with her. He's been friends with her, I think, since grade school or something. I think they went to school. So and then I became friends with Bob. So then that's basically how how I became friends with Mary Alice, was going through him and everything. So.
Yeah.
And for me, it was the first day of senior year. I was sitting behind Mary Alice, and she turned around and said hello to me. So she was the first person to actually greet me in school.
Uh-huh.
And I think she had been tipped off by Mr. Boozad, who was the assistant principal, that I was new.
Yeah.
He wanted me to get in with the good kids, so Mary Alice's crew. So I think he gave her a little task, make sure keep some reins on me. So.
Uh-huh.
That's cool. And you guys had her on your show, which, by the way, I forgot to mention is on Substack, right? That's the platform that you're on, Substack.
Right.
It's
TheBrianLennonShow.substack.com.
And it's all one word, right? There's no space, because I know I had trouble searching for it. I had to type it all together.
Yes, it's one word. Yeah, Mary Alice was on our show probably a year ago.
Yeah.
When we started our podcast in June. I think she came on in August when the whole Woodstock 99 Netflix special was going on. And she kind of posted on Facebook that she had been there. So we wanted to have her on the show. And she kind of was really our first big guest that we had on, and kind of, exploded our listenership. So, yeah.
Yeah. She the story she tells about that experience, that was crazy. And I do remember talking to her and her telling me, this is this is bad here. It's bad. And I was like, all right, I'll come get you. Like, if you want me to come get you, I will drive up there and I'll get you. And she's like, no, I'll give it another, give it another day, see what happens. And wow. I mean, they got out of there just before everything burned down to the ground.
Literally before the fire started. Yeah.
Oh,
Insane.
That was funny.
So, I always tell people that, in fact, we just did an interview yesterday on an internet radio show. I always tell people, Sean and I have been doing this podcast for 30 years. We just recently started recording it. And I know you guys have been friends, just as long or longer really than we have. So how did the idea for your podcast come about?
It probably germinated back in like 2009, 2010. I had been laid off from my job. So I was just kind of at home taking care of my daughter who was just recently born, and got into watching the Dan Patrick Show. And that was on, 9 to 12 every morning from, Monday through Friday. So I kind of started watching that, and that was kind of when podcasts were just kind of starting and becoming somewhat popular.
Mm-hmm.
And so I decided to just kind of start a podcast, which we started on Blog Talk Radio.
Oh, really?
And it was just kind of a way for me to connect with Gary, because he had moved down to Florida.
Yeah.
So it was just kind of like, let's, and we would talk pretty regularly for, an hour, and, we'd laugh and, talk about stuff. I thought, wouldn't it be fun to kind of record our phone calls? So that was the initial kind of idea for the podcast on Blog Talk Radio. And we did it for about a year, maybe a year and a half, and then kind of it stopped. And with Substack, I got into Substack writing pieces for that page. The podcasting became a little bit more accessible.
Mm-hmm.
And so I decided to kind of kickstart it again with Gary. So that's kind of where it picked up.
So Substack is like a blog site as well, right? You write blogs, articles and stuff.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah. So that the Brian Lennon Show page has articles I write, as well as the podcast.
Mm-hmm. And what kind of topics? Like, I know you guys have a wide variety of topics. You do some current events and things like that, and you have a lot of guests. But tell us about that. Tell us about what you guys talk about mostly.
We talk about Gary, tell them about your News of the Weird. Start with that.
Well, I mean, that spanned from the beginning too, when we did the blog talk. So there's a radio station down here called 102.5 The Bone, and it became probably around that time. It became just all talk. So it was like the one show I listened to. The guy changed it now. It's the Mike Calta Show, but it used to be called Cowhead Show. That was his nickname.
Yeah.
And they would do they used the R word it was news, they would call it. But then they changed it to just News with Galvin. That's the guy that's on the show. So I'm like, oh, I love that idea, just finding weird stories and just reading them off. So we started doing that back when we did the Blog Talk Radio. I would just find random stories, like weird ones, and then we would just read them off. So it just stuck as becoming News of the Weird. And so now I usually go to one site, AP News. It's always got all the weird stuff. Unless I'm specifically out there looking for something, like if I'm like, okay, or Brian sends me a specific story that he finds, and I'm like, oh yeah, that's a good one. All right, we're gonna read this one. Or like I said, I'll just look up Florida Man, because you look up that, you find a ton of good stories. So, but I've changed it up. The one time we did it, I'm like, you know what? Too many in Florida. Let me look up some Pennsylvania stuff. Every Pennsylvania story was just sad and depressing, and I'm like, I'm not reading this stuff. Yeah, it was either fires or murders. I like, no. I like the Florida was bad, but no. I can't. I'm like, I have to go back to Florida or my AP News. But yeah, that's how that kind of it just spanned from that show, and then I'm like, we just started doing it. And I mean, it depends. Like now, I think I cut it down to 2 stories. I think we used to do 3 stories, but I'm like, yeah, 2's good enough. So,
yeah. That's always good. The stories are always great. Make me laugh.
As far as what we kind of talk about, we used to talk more on sports, but over probably the last 10 years, I've kind of gotten away from being so sports obsessed. So we talk a lot of just kind of home repair. Like Gary and I are not mechanical or technical in any aspect. So plumbing, we'll kind of complain about our plumbing. Gary got a indoor or in-ground pool installed over the last few months, so we've kind of talked about that and working with contractors. He has a son, I have 4 kids, so we talk about that. We talk about our wives, all that, just kind of regular 2 guys on a phone kind of conversation, some politics, some entertainment. What we did,
just me and you. I mean, then we have guests. Then it's different. Then we have other topics that we go with that stuff. But I mean, yeah, when it's just me and you, it's just 2 guys talking to one another that haven't seen each other in like maybe a week. So we just talk about our week and all that stuff, and then it just kind of spawns out from there. So,
and then I was going to just say is, I have a lot of varied interests. So, we've had a musician on our podcast, Izzy Miller, who's from Alabama. We've had your wife talk about Woodstock.
Right.
We just recently had an author on who's from the Scranton area and actually graduated from the same school Gary and I graduated from, to talk about his new book of short stories.
Yeah.
And this week we have scheduled 2 members of the band Portland Frank, which is a local band. They're going to be performing at the V Spot, so we're going to talk to them hopefully about their new music that's coming out and just kind of the music industry in general. And so
cool. Nice. Good. And Sean, do you have any questions for the guys?
No, I'm ready to get into this list, buddy.
All right. Let's do the list. It'll probably take us a little bit of time, but
we do talk about some UFOs too, which I know you guys don't talk about UFOs, but if you want some traffic, put UFO in the description. You'll get a lot of hits.
Actually,
one of our most listened to podcasts, we put like the UFO in the title.
Yeah.
And it just like totally outranked anything else we've ever done.
Somebody a friend of mine actually texted me this past week and said, are you guys going to do a show on UFOs? And I said, it's not really in our wheelhouse. Like we don't really, I mean, I know Sean, you've done some research on it, but
yeah, I've always been interested in it, but it's interesting the government's stance on it lately, because I don't know if you guys know the hearing that just came out, and they did a lot of admissions. They had military people on, and it's it's just pretty compelling. But I mean, I don't think it's something we want to do on our podcast.
Not yet, anyway. At some point,
I mean, we got enough people.
Oh, Sean, we're losing you. Oh boy! Oh, we lost. Sounds like he's being abducted.
Can you hear me now, Billy?
They're beaming him up right as he speaks.
I can hit my shame button for you if you'd like. Oh, that's
John. You still with us?
Can you hear me, Billy?
Oh yeah, now we can hear you.
All right.
Yeah, no, I think somebody said, the government is like slowly preparing us for what eventually we're going to find out, which is they've been here the whole time. They're living among us.
Oh yeah.
Or are they distracting us from something else?
Well, that's another way. I can see that.
All right, let's get into our topic, because this is going to be a really fun one. So what I wanted to do, just because we've been doing a lot of serious topics lately, and I thought let's do something really fun. So what I'm calling this is Desert Island Entertainment. So you guys, we're all being banished to our own desert islands, which for some of us is probably a nice change. But we're all being banished, and we can only take 10 entertainment items with us. made up of either movies, TV shows, books, records. And for our younger audience, record is a collection of songs by an artist that you used to be able to buy in a record store. Doesn't have to be a record, of course. A podcast or a play. So this wouldn't include sports, and it doesn't have to be in any kind of order. But yeah, top 10 desert island entertainment. So we'll start with our guest. Gary, you wanna go first?
Sure. So I'm gonna. Do you want me to do all 10 or
go? You don't have to. You don't have to do a whole explanation of everything. Just kind of highlight the ones you like. And
so, well, when it comes to music, I would have to have my Mumford & Sons. So that's a must.
Any a specific album?
So there's two, Babel and oh crap, my memory is shot today. It's one of their newer electronic ones. That's the one I like. Oh, Wilder Minds. That's it. So definitely those two. Then I was talking to my wife about this. I mentioned, I'm like, I don't know if this would count, but a deck of cards. Would I be able to take a deck of cards with me? I love my solitaire.
Sure, yeah.
So I'm like, that would entertain me. Just sit there playing my cards. When it comes to like TV shows, man, the one I could watch over and over again is probably Game of Thrones.
Yeah.
I'll take that whole box there with me. I could sit and watch all those seasons. Movie wise, another one I could watch over is Star Trek II: The Wrath of Khan.
Oh, good one.
So that I would definitely have to have that one. Books, if I had to take some books, probably Christopher Moore. I would take some of his. Lamb would be definitely one. Maybe Island of the Sequenced Love Nun. That's another good one. Man, yeah, that's. I mean, trying to think of something like another TV show that I really like, but like there's so many of them. Anything Star Trek, I would probably take any Star Trek stuff with me.
Yeah.
So.
All right.
Well, the TV series I would have to have is Mad Men.
Oh yeah, good one. Yep.
The AMC series featuring Dom Draper.
Yeah.
I thought it was just so well done. There's a great story, great writing. The acting and the actors are great, and I just love that kind of time period.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And it's a time we'll never probably see again in our lifetime.
Never. Yeah.
And it's kind of interesting to think what people got away with back then.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, just the smoking, like speaking of smoking,
exactly.
I mean,
anywhere,
absolutely. And I mean, you go to a doctor's office and the doctor's smoking, and and I think it was in the first episode where the kids had the plastic bags over them, right? And the mother was yelling at them that they I forget what it was, something about the dry cleaning was going to get ruined, and or I don't know what it was, but she didn't care about the plastic bags over the kids' heads. It was a great show. We'll keep going, Brian.
As far as movies go, and you're only giving us 10, but I'm going to take both of these. I'm taking Pretty Woman.
Yeah.
And I'm taking Cocktail.
Ah.
They're probably both movies in my top 5 of all time. Pretty Woman for me is just kind of it's a fairy tale, really, a modern day fairy tale. The relationship between Julia Roberts and Richard Gere, and the soundtrack I like.
Yeah, it's great.
It's a great kind of early 90s soundtrack.
Oh, yeah.
And Cocktail is just I think it's a great story. We actually just watched it maybe 2 weeks ago. It's one of those movies, if it's on, I'm watching it till the end.
Mm-hmm.
And, Elizabeth Shue is cute as could be in that. And the Brian Brown, who plays Coughlin, in the movie is just hilarious, and his Coughlin's loss, and it's one I would be able to watch on a deserted island, enjoying some cocktails too.
Sure. Keep going. What else you got?
Yeah. What books you think?
The book I would take would be The Amazing Adventures of Cavalier and Clay by Michael Chabon. Okay. I've only read the book once. I probably read it in about 2004. The book was published, I think, in 2000. And it tells a story about, it's kind of an epic novel about these cartoonists, and from like pre-World War II to World War II to post-World War II, and their cousins. And it deals with lots of items, lots of history, historical fiction. It's just an amazing adventure, and the writing is just like wonderful. And as someone who would love to be, a full-time writer, you just kind of sit and marvel at, how Michael Chabon put the story together, and the words he uses, and just the whole story overall.
Interesting. What about what do you got for TV shows or music?
Actually, I was debating here. Can I bring more than 10?
You're allowed, yes.
Okay.
I'll allow it.
Thank you, Judge. I think Friends would be the one I would take if I had to take one, just because it's entertaining. I will catch an episode like late at night and see something I never noticed before that makes me laugh. There was one episode happened probably about a year ago. I was watching. It was late at night. I was like getting undressed, getting ready for bed, and it was the scene, I think, where Chandler and Monica are getting married, and just the way Ross is like, he like gives the speech or something to Chandler, but just the reaction he made, I lost it. And I'm like trying not to laugh because it's late at night. Yeah. So I'm just like on the edge of the bed shaking, trying not to become alive. So, but I just find that watching the show, even though I've seen every episode probably 10 times, you just always catch something different. And like I mentioned before, the Dan Patrick Show, if I would be able to take that, because it would keep me up on sports, but it also provides humor and kind of current events of what's going on.
Mm-hmm. Yep. What about music?
Music, I would probably take some Stone Temple Pilots CDs.
Oh, there you go. That's good.
Yeah, they're my favorite.
Yeah.
I was trying to debate between Purple, their second album, or Tiny Music Songs of the Vatican Gift Shop, their third one. That would be the two I would probably take. Yeah.
Good selection.
What about you, Bill, for music? Are you coming on the island with us, or?
I'm going to my own island. We're all going to our own island. So, well, I'll let Sean go first.
Okay, so the way I did it, I put together a top 10 list, and I kind of mixed in, movies, TV shows, music, books. So I'm going to start at number 10. Number 10, I'm going to go music. It'll be the Dropkick Murphys, Shipping Up to Boston. You're going to see a lot of common themes here in my list here, but just being Irish, being a fan of the city of Boston, I love it, and I've seen these guys in concert so many times, so they've been such an influence on me. So even though they kind of been commercialized, and seems every sports city in the world uses that song now, even though they're not from Boston, but right. I mean, that's still, I'm putting that on my number 10. Number 9, speaking of UFOs, I'm going to go with one of my favorite all-time shows, The X-Files. I still say if I could sit down and interview the creator, Chris Carter, that I would ask him, I see the influence in the Smoking Man character, a lot of Alan Dulles.
Yeah.
And I would like to see it, I would like to hear if he actually had any influence with that character. And actually that whole secret government syndicate kind of reminds me of Rockefeller and the boys and Dulles and all them guys. So that would be number 9. Number 8, I would put, this is going back to my childhood, which is going to scare Bill because I know he's afraid of Gene Simmons, but Kiss would be number 8 because, I was just such a big fan when I was a kid, and I like to go back every now and then and listen to them. So that would be number 8. 7, I'm going to go books, and we're going to go a tie here. I'm going to go Lisa Pease, A Lie Too Big to Fail, and Jim DiEugenio. Any of his books, but specifically Destiny Betrayed. I think those 2 authors had such an influence on our podcast. I mean, Lisa's pretty much like our booking agent. And those 2 have just influenced me, like, in doing the show. Number 6, I'm gonna go TV, and I'm gonna go my favorite comedy of all time. And I think Billy, we're in agreement on this one. I'm gonna go Seinfeld.
Yep, classic.
I mean, I still like to see the reruns every time they're on, and I'm switching channels and I see that. I keep it on and watch it. I had a lot of good memories watching that with my dad. It's just a hilarious show. Number 5, I'm going to go Sopranos, one of my all-time favorite TV shows. Number 4, I'm going to go to Godfather, the movie. Number 3, I'm going to go my all-time favorite television show, 24, which I think is still one of the hardest shows to write for. I mean, think about this, writing a script for that when you have to, the whole season is really one day, right? And every episode's an hour. It's just, and one thing that was always amazing about that show is they would have a terrorist attack by usually Russians or Muslims, and the bad guys would always come out at the end. Manipulating things in the background would always be defense contractors and rich oil men and ties to intelligence agencies. And, I always found that kind of humorous because it's kind of realistic. Yeah. And then, number 2 would have to go Star Wars, from childhood, influence, and still influence me today. I still watch all the Star Wars, and even with Disney, I still watch the Mandalorian and everything. And number 1 on my list, it's not going to be a big shock to anybody, but it's the Oliver Stone movie JFK. I mean, when that came out, and I seen that the ending when they said, about all the files that the government's still holding, and now they locked them away probably forever. We're never going to know what the last remaining files say. But that movie, just the way Oliver was attacked, and I look at that and I see other movies that Hollywood puts out that is complete garbage. Like not garbage as far as entertainment, but just like, supposedly on realistic events. And like, just take The Untouchables, that movie, probably 1% of that is factual. The rest is just completely made up. And critics don't attack that for being realistic, but they attack JFK, which when you look at it now from the documents that were released because of that movie, it's kind of understated. So, to me, that's my greatest influence, and that's the one movie I would take with me on the island. So that's my list.
All right, good list. All right, I'll do mine. I'll go in reverse order. I'll go 10 to 1. So and there's no books. I'm not reading on this island, guys. I'm done reading. If I'm going to be on an island by myself, I'm not doing any reading. Okay, so my number 10 is the movie The 40-Year-Old Virgin, which every time I see that movie, it has me in stitches. There's so many parts of that movie. I just cannot stop laughing. And I'm not a huge Steve Carell fan. Like I don't like The Office. I never really got into it, but he's great in that movie. Seth Rogen is fantastic in that movie. It's just funny. So funny. All right, number 9, I have the Boston, the self-titled album, Boston, which, has More Than a Feeling. It has, oh my God, I can't even think of
Amanda.
No, that was actually Third Stage. That was a later album. But it has Long Time, It has I can't even think about it, but I mean every song on that album is fantastic. So yeah, Boston, self-titled. Next is Godfather Part 2, which to me is, I mean, that's one of the greatest movies of all time. And the good thing about it, it's like a 4-hour movie, so it'll take up a lot of time when you're sitting there all alone. And then I have Game of Thrones also on my list. I mean, Game of Thrones, you could just watch that on a loop over and over and over. And I think the only drawback to that show was like the last season kind of gets,
Yeah. I agree. Yep.
But still an amazing show. Then I have The Sopranos, of course, another one you could just watch over and over and over. Great show. And then my Star Wars representation is Return of the Jedi, which is still my favorite Star Wars movie to this day. I love Return of the Jedi. Then back to music, I will have the Beatles Revolver album, which is my favorite of their stuff. Then the next on my list is Goodfellas, which is a movie I could just watch over. I mean, it's one of those where even if it's on like AMC and it's bleeped out, you still sit there and watch it.
Commercials. Oh yeah.
Yeah. Number 2 is Breaking Bad. Between Breaking Bad and Sopranos, I don't know. It's like my 1 and 1A of my favorite TV shows. But Breaking Bad, I could just watch over and over again. I love that show. And then number 1 is 1984 from Van Halen. I mean, you talk about the perfect album. That was just amazing. Unfortunately, the last time we really saw David Lee Roth with the band, but I don't know. I mean, Jump is an amazing song. Hot for Teacher, Panama, just incredible music.
Yeah.
Came out at the perfect time for me too, because I was like just starting to get into music, and I was just like, my God, this is incredible.
Now, Bill, did you see the reissue of Return of the Jedi?
In the theater, you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, I actually took my son. Yeah, we went to see it in the theater.
Yeah, I went to go see it too with my son, and I was a little underwhelmed by it. I don't know if it was because I've seen it as an adult. I don't know. It just didn't like have the magic as I remembered it having.
Yeah. I think for me, it's definitely a sentimental thing. It's because it was, again, I was the perfect age. I was 10 when that movie came out. And so I saw it, of course, a bunch of times in the theater. And then we lived in Massachusetts at the time, and there was a second run theater that was within a bike ride distance from my house. So that summer, I would go to the theater and just, I probably saw it, I don't know, 15 times that summer, just kept riding my bike there. And between that and War Games was the other movie I think that was out at that time. I just kept watching, I just kept seeing both of those movies.
Yeah, see, now if I could take a streaming service, I'd probably take Disney Plus.
Yeah.
You got your Marvels, you got your Star Wars.
There you go. That's everything.
Yep. Jones now, so I mean, that'd be, I'd watch that all day. So many different TV shows and movies on there too. So
yeah.
So let's throw a curveball here. Let's go. Everybody give what's 1 or 2 things that you absolutely would not take on this island.
Ooh.
My wife and kids.
Stick to the movies.
Oh, sorry. Okay. Go ahead, Brian. Let me think about this one.
With TV shows and movies, for me, it would probably be The Office. I've never even really watched. I watched like parts of the first season, but I don't know. It's just, I think it's because I live in Scranton, and people's like affinity and affection for it just kind of like turns me off of it.
Yeah.
So I would never bring The Office. Also, anything written by Joyce Carol Oates as an author, but she's just not very good.
Oh man, this is kind of a hard one. Shoot, TV shows. Well, okay. I would never
The View.
never take Sex in the City. I was never a fan of that, so I would never take that with me.
Same.
Music wise, man, probably anything hip hop. I probably wouldn't take that with me. I'm just not really a big fan of that either. So that would probably be the two things I wouldn't take.
Yeah. For me, this is probably going to upset some people, but I would not take anything Harry Potter with me. I'm just not into Harry Potter.
I haven't been able to get into it, Bill, either, and I've tried.
Yeah,
but hasn't done anything for me.
Yeah,
I've watched them all, so but I'm stuck with Harry Potter fans. So
no, I'm not into Harry Potter, and I would definitely not take country music with me either.
Ooh.
Not a country music fan.
Now, are you talking about modern day country music?
I'm talking about all country.
Or any country music?
Yeah, I'm just not a country music guy. None of it appeals to me.
That's a debate in itself.
I know.
What's country music? And
even Johnny Cash, Billy?
Not a huge Johnny Cash fan, no.
All right.
Sorry.
Well, I'll tell you what I wouldn't take, and it's a TV show, and that'd be Jersey Shore. Oh, that's number one on my list. That was complete garbage.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I don't think any of those MTV reality shows are coming with me either. Well, that was good. That's a good one, Sean.
I'm still a fan of like the first 3 seasons of The Real World. But then it kind of jumped the shark. I think they still had jobs between like the first 3 seasons, and then they just kind of hung around and drank after that.
I'm a fan of the Dave Chappelle skit, The Mad Real World. Did you guys see that?
No.
Look that one up,
that's one I would probably take with me. Chappelle Show.
Oh yeah, that was a good one.
Yeah. But that was that was a really funny one. Mad Real World. So,
I still have some podcasts I would take with me. One is Cheap Heat podcast.
Oh yeah,
which is on the Ringer Wrestling Network.
Is that Peter Rosenberg? Is he on that?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, Peter Rosenberg is the host with Brian Dipperstein and Stat Guy Greg. They talk about professional wrestling, but it's more than professional wrestling.
Yeah.
They'll talk about bagels, traveling, things of that nature, spreads, cream cheese and lox and all that stuff. That's something I always listen to every week. I would also probably take the Joe Rogan Experience podcast with me.
Yeah.
Just to stay kind of up to date on political items. He has a lot of comedians, so there'd be some humor involved with that as well. Science, and kind of always be learning something. Whether it's the facts are true or not, it's debatable, but the ideas at least are out there. So I would bring those two.
2 Bears, 1 Cave. Tom Segura and Bert Kreischer. Those two get together. It's just it's hilarious.
Yeah. Joe, we've talked about Joe Rogan. Whether you believe everything or like everything, or the guests he has on, he has he gives them a forum. And we were just talking about the interview he did with RFK Jr. It was like a 3-hour interview, and you're not going to see him on any of the mainstream news networks because they're trying to keep him off, and Joe Rogan really gave him, and I think he even may have had him back again. I don't know if he did or not, but I know he was trying to set up a debate between RFK Jr. and one of these guys who disagrees with him, but won't debate him. So I don't know. Interesting stuff.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to the presidential election this year to see the role podcasts play. because I think it's going to be a very effective medium to really speak directly to the list, like the voters,
Right.
without a third party interference.
Right.
You'll be able to get your complete message out.
Right.
And I think it's going to be a great tool to really judge a politician on their stance on issues.
Right.
And I think it could really change the way elections are run and, vetted going forward.
Yeah. I hope that people have the the time and the patience and the interest to listen and absorb what these politicians have to say, because most of the time we've just been conditioned to get like these 10-second, 15-second sound bites and go on that, and that's everything that we know about these people. And I think to give them a forum to be able to talk in depth about their platform uninterrupted is the key, right? We want to hear them talk and not be shouted over or have to go to commercial every 5 minutes. It's really fascinating to hear them.
Because the RFK Jr. podcast, you were the one that brought it to my attention. So I was like, let me listen to it.
Yeah.
And if you think about that, like he doesn't have the greatest speaking voice to begin with.
It's tough to hear him talk. Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
So if you put him on a stage with even 3 other candidates, he's going to get talked over.
Right.
And, put him on a platform with, 16 maybe at the beginning of these debates.
Right.
You're not going to hear from him. And if you do, you're going to get 30 seconds here, maybe a 30-second rebuttal.
Right.
The podcast opened it up where you're going to be able to hear him.
Mm-hmm.
He's going to be able to, develop an idea and deliver it and tell you why he feels that way.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the politician who best utilizes the podcast this election will probably be the winner.
Yeah, I agree with you. It's a great point.
Yeah, good points.
One other music items for the desert island. I don't know if you guys are familiar with Ted. I don't know how to pronounce his name exactly. Is it Goya or Joya? He's on Substack.
Okay.
The name of his Substack is The Honest Broker, and he talks a lot about music, the music industry, but he does he's almost like a philosopher, like a modern day philosopher. And he's worked for like major corporations kind of as a forecaster. And so he's very interesting when it comes to, streaming, Spotify, and kind of how industry has been changing, not just in music, but all other fields too. And I really enjoy reading his stuff and his take on the world in the next, 20 to 50 years.
Yeah.
And also Rick Beato on YouTube. I really enjoy his page. He, does the What Makes This Song Great, where he'll go into, songs from that we all know and kind of just break it down and kind of enlighten you like why the song is that good.
Right. One of the videos I just saw from him was it's the greatest guitar solo we've never heard. I don't know if you know that one, Brian.
I haven't seen that one yet.
It's the solo that Christopher Cross does at the end of the song's called, is it Ride Like the Wind? Right. It's actually one of my favorite songs. And he does a guitar solo at the end, but it's so low down in the mix you could barely hear it. But it's a great solo. And what he did was isolate it so you could hear the whole solo, the guitar solo. It was fantastic. And, Christopher Cross, I mean, people don't really, he's kind of like a yacht rock guy, right? People don't take him seriously. He's a fantastic musician and really a great guitar player too. And if you listen to that, if you get a chance to check that video out, it's pretty fascinating. And then he did another one where he had Christopher Cross on. They talked about it. It was really good. Yeah, I enjoy Rick Beato. Yeah.
Yeah. And then finally, my last one would be on Outkick.com, which is a right-leaning website. Every morning, one of the writers, Joe Kinsey, does a screen caps article. It's basically, he talks about, everyday stuff like coaching his son's little league teams to, building a deck, planting tomatoes, whatever it might be. And there's also like pictures of Instagram models, food, vacation spots. And it's kind of like something I read every day when it comes out around 9:00 in the morning here. And he used to work in Wilkes-Barre. He used to write for one of the newspapers down in Wilkes-Barre. And I've emailed him some things that he's shared, on the column every morning. So something I enjoy.
Yeah. Cool. Yeah. And I'll go one more. There's since we were talking about Rick Beato, there's one on YouTube that I really like. It's called, it's the JHS show, or JHS pedals. So there's this guy, Josh Scott, who started a guitar pedal company years ago. And he's one of these guys where he's like obsessed with guitar pedals. He's got one of the largest collections in the world of guitar pedals. And you can see that when they have the YouTube show, you can see them behind him. And they're just like literally hundreds of, probably thousands of guitar pedals. He's got not only does he have every pedal, but he's got every version of every pedal, which is amazing. And they did a show where they blindfolded him, and they said, we want you to see if you can identify the guitar pedal, not by sound, mind you, but by holding it and touching it. And so they were handing him guitar pedals, and he was like feeling them, going, okay, this knob is here. This switch does this. I can tell because this knob is a little bit bigger, and it's in this position. And he would give you the name of the pedal. And there were there's probably hundreds of thousands of different guitar pedals out there, and he could name them just by holding them. It's just
crazy.
So if you're a guitar player and you're interested in pedals, I would definitely check that one out. It's the JHS pedal show. All right, guys, this has been a lot of fun. Now I have one more thing before we go. Brian, I'm going to need you to do your, speaking of news of the weird, I'm going to need you to polish up those pipes and give us your news of the weird.
Are you delivering the news of the weird?
Is that okay, Gary? Can I do it? Can I do a story?
You want the music? I got music for you.
Yeah, let's do it. Let's do it up.
And now it's time for news of the weird with your special host, Bill Rader.
All right. Thank you for that great intro. This is one of the weirdest, and it's not like one of these crazy like animal stories. I mean, I know you guys do a lot of those kind of stories. This is, and I don't know if you guys have done this one or not. This is really weird, and I never knew this. So millions become a year or two younger as South Korea scraps traditional way of counting age. So I don't know if you guys have heard about this.
I have seen this story.
This is crazy. So under the age system most commonly used in South Koreans' everyday life, people are deemed to be a year old at birth, and then a year is added every January 1st. So if you were born on New Year's Eve, the next day you're 2 years old.
Mm-hmm.
That's crazy.
Wow.
So they're actually going to be going back to the traditional, or I don't know if they've ever done this, but so it says South Koreans became a year or two younger on Wednesday as new laws that require using only the international method of counting age took effect, replacing the country's traditional method. Under the age system most commonly used in South Koreans' everyday life, people are deemed to be a year old at birth, and a year is added every January 1st. The country has had this since the early 1960s. but many South Koreans continue to use the traditional method for everything else. So they use this basically for calculating. Let's see. Country has, since the early 1960s, used the international norm of calculating from zero at birth and adding a year on every birthday for medical and legal documents. But for many South Koreans, they continue to use the traditional method for everything else. So in December, South Korea passed a law to scrap the traditional method and fully adopt the international standard. So it says, we expect legal disputes, complaints, and social confusion, for sure, that have been caused over how to calculate ages will be greatly reduced, says the Minister of Government and Legislation, and I'm not even going to attempt that name, told a briefing on Monday. According to government survey conducted in September of 2022, 86% of South Koreans said they would use the international age in their everyday life when the new laws took effect. Here's a quote. I was about to turn 30 next year under the traditional Korean age system, but now I have some more time earned and I love it. Choi Hyun-ji, a 27-year-old office worker in Seoul, said, it's just great to feel younger. Another age system exists in South Korea for conscription, school entrance, and calculating the legal age to drink alcohol and smoke. A person's age is calculated from zero at birth, and a year is added on January 1st. Officials say that method would remain for the time being. I mean, that's it sounds crazy, but I guess if it's all you've ever known.
Yeah, I think it's similar to the way horses are, like a horse's age is considered.
Okay.
Because I think the full season, like anything born after February 1st is considered like you're born in that year.
Yeah.
So I think they try to breed the horses so that they're born kind of in February and March. But if you're born in like December, you're still considered that age, but you're going to not be developed as much like when you're a 3-year-old to
right. Well, that's when they run all the races when they're 3.
Right.
Yeah.
So they try to like breed them to be born probably in January, February, or March.
Interesting.
Yeah, I didn't know that.
Yeah. All right, guys. Well, this has been fun. Sean, anything from you? Any other questions or anything else you want to throw into the mix?
Well, you know what? I just want to ask the guys, yesterday me and Bill did our first time on live radio, and it was pretty crazy. I was just wondering, Brian and Gary, did you guys do any radio yet?
We have not.
No, not yet.
It's a little different. It's not like you could make a mistake and then Bill's there to edit it, so it's a little nerve-wracking, but it was a good experience, right, Billy?
Oh, it was nerve. And then, of course we had, he threw us a curveball question at the end. But we handled it, but
well,
I passed that right to Billy. I said, Billy, that's yours, buddy.
Yeah. I'd be afraid, of, saying something that I shouldn't be saying on live radio.
Yeah, we were afraid of that.
And that's my thing. Because sometimes, like, even with our show, I'm like, I try not to cuss as much, but every once in a while it just comes out, and I'm like, that would be my fear on a show like that, would be just be like, they'd ask a question, and I'd be like, oh, well, that's blah, blah, blah. And I'd be like, oh, buzzing me. So, yeah.
Well, you guys don't edit your show anyway, right? It's just, it's
raw.
Right. It's raw. Yeah. Real raw radio.
Yeah.
Real raw podcast. Yeah, no. So, but yeah, like I said, I try. You know what? It's funny is like when we do our show, I try to do it as if we were doing it like on a live like FM station.
Yeah.
But I try to keep my mouth clean, I guess you could say. Try.
And that show, of course, is The Brian Lennon Show, which you can find on Substack, and you can find it on YouTube as well. You have to look up. You have to type it all in as one word. The Brian Lennon Show. That's
no spaces.
No spaces.
No spaces.
So guys, this has been it's been a lot of fun just catching up with you guys and kind of going through some of this fun stuff with you. So thank you for coming on. We appreciate it.
Thanks for having us on.
Thank you.
And we've enjoyed your show and seeing your continued success, and see your show continue to grow as well.
Well, thank you. Appreciate it. So you guys want to get us out of here with our catchphrase?
For everyone listening, for Gary, Billy, Sean, myself, that's enough out of you.
All right.
Very good.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you, guys.
Bye.
All right. Bye-bye.